Euphoria Season 3 might be about to end with Rue either dead, in prison, or gone from her old life forever. And honestly, after this trailer, none of those outcomes feel impossible. Because Episode 8 does not look like a finale built around hope. It looks like a finale built around consequences finally catching everyone at the exact same time. Hey, what's up everyone? Come back to Breakdown Epic. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Now, this trailer for Euphoria Season 3 Episode 8 is doing something very simple and very effective. It is putting almost every major character in a position where the life they thought they were building is starting to collapse. Rue looks hunted, Maddie and Cassie look trapped, Nate is gone, Jules is still drifting in her own disconnected world, and Alamo feels like the center of all of it now. In my opinion, this finale is less about one final twist and more about asking who can still survive the world they helped create. Let's start with Rue, because the trailer is clearly telling us she is the emotional center of the finale. The opening with the barking dogs, the birds screeching, and Lori saying the animals know something feels wrong is not just creepy atmosphere. It feels like a warning. The whole finale seems built around the idea that something bad is already in motion, and Rue is right in the middle of it. Lori saying that line makes me think she is beginning to suspect something. Either she senses Rue is hiding something, or she is starting to realize Alamo's side of the story is moving in a way she cannot fully control. And that matters, because Rue is still trying to play too many sides at once. She has Alamo, she has Lori, she has the DEA, and at this point, all it takes is one wrong word for the whole thing to fold in on her. Now, the alley scenes in the trailer are really important too. Rue asking how so many people can be evil tells you exactly where her head is. She has now seen enough of this world to stop romanticizing any part of it. Alamo, Lori, Wayne, all of them have reduced people to transactions, leverage, and disposable bodies. And Allie's response about selfishness fits the whole season perfectly. This has been a story about people chasing survival, power, or validation at the expense of everyone around them, Rue included.
That is why I think her return to Allie matters so much. It suggests she gets away from Lori's immediate grasp somehow. But I do not think that means she is safe. In my opinion, this feels more like the pause before the real collapse. Rue may get out physically, but emotionally and strategically she is still trapped. Then the trailer gets darker. Alamo tells Rue that maybe they were always meant to be similar. And that line honestly feels terrifying. Because if he sees something of himself in her, then either he is manipulating her or Rue has already crossed the line worse than we think. There is a real chance she did something violent to escape Lori's crew. And if she did, then Alamo may now see her less as a weak link and more as a weapon. That is dangerous for two reasons. First, it means he might trust her just enough to keep her close. Second, it means he may also suspect she is capable of betrayal, because he knows exactly what ruthless people do when they are cornered. And once the trailer shows her being dragged, chased, and hunted, it becomes clear this finale is probably leading to one final confrontation between Rue and Alamo, where only one of them walks away.
Now let's talk about Maddie and Cassie, because their storyline looks emotionally brutal in a completely different way. The image of both of them crying together feels like the immediate fallout from Nate's death. And honestly, that is one of the most important details in the whole trailer. Maddie has stayed emotionally controlled for most of the season, so if she is crying here, then Nate's death hit her in a place she cannot hide. Even if they were not together, there was still history there, still attachment, still pain. And Cassie, of course, is shattered. What really interests me here is that Nate's death may finally force Cassie to understand what she actually wanted. Not followers, not freedom, not fame. Him. Or at least the version of him she had built in her mind. And that realization is the cruelest kind, because it comes after it is already too late. At the same time, both she and Maddie are now financially and personally tied to Alamo because of what he did, so their grief is not allowed to just be grief. It comes with debt attached. That is the whole ugly logic of this world. Even mourning gets monetized.
Now, one detail I do think matters is the way Maddie has changed. She no longer feels like a friend in the normal sense. She feels transactional, strategic, cold. And while that has made her more effective at surviving, it also makes her relationship with Cassie feel almost impossible to repair. Cassie still clings to this fantasy that they mean more to each other than they actually do. Maddie seems long past that. So even if they are crying in the same room, they're not grieving from the same emotional place. Then there's Lexi, and I actually think the trailer is quietly calling her out in a way the season needed to. That shot of her reacting while Ollie talks about selfishness does not feel accidental. For all the sympathy Lexi gets, and some of it is fair, she has also been extremely judgmental while offering very little real emotional support to anyone. Rue confides in her, and she assumes the worst. She passes along information she should have kept to herself. She watches everyone fall apart and still acts like she somehow exists above it. Personally, I think the finale might finally force Lexi to realize that standing back and judging people is not the same thing as being morally better than them.
Now, let's be honest for a second about Jules. Her storyline feels almost disconnected from the rest of the season at this point. The trailer gives us more painting, more distance, more quiet unhappiness, and very little else. And I have to be honest, I just do not think the season has done enough with her for the finale to make that land in a big way. The ideas are there. Isolation, choosing comfort over passion, emotional drift. But the execution has been too thin. So if the finale tries to make Jules emotionally central now, I think it may feel too late. And that leaves us with the biggest question of the whole trailer. Does Rue survive the finale? I think there are three real possibilities. The first is the darkest. Rue dies. Maybe at the hands of Alamo. Maybe trying to escape. Maybe while finally trying to do the right thing too late. The second is that she survives physically, but ends up in prison. And honestly, this theory works really well because it explains the narration. If Rue is telling this story from a cell, then the whole season becomes the written version of how she got there.
And the third possibility is she survives but loses the life she knew anyway, meaning even if she lives, the version of Rue we started with is over. In my opinion, that third option might be the most likely because it gives the show tragedy without fully erasing its lead. But after this trailer, I would not rule out a much harsher ending. The tone feels that dark. One thing I do think matters is the final text saying season finale instead of series finale. That tells me the world may continue even if certain characters do not. So if Rue gets written out, the show could still come back in another form. But right now, none of that matters as much as this episode 8 looks like it is about the bill coming due. For Rue, for Cassie, for Maddie, for everyone. And after 7 episodes of watching people trade pieces of themselves for power, safety, attention, and survival, the finale is finally asking the one question none of them can avoid anymore. What was all of it actually worth? But anyway, that is my breakdown of the Euphoria Season 3 Episode 8 trailer and my theories on how I think the season will end. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Do you think Rue dies, goes to jail, or survives at the cost of